Right, Alison, we're live.
We're live. We're back
Hello,
together.
everyone. We are
That's
back
very nice.
together. Very nice.
I
Very
was just
good.
thinking, Laura, that we were going to try that sort of fancy edge of
Oh,
music. Maybe one day we can pop up like
Yes,
that. Yeah. You got a phone call
I
now.
know. Right, no more phone calls.
Anyway, this is the end of a really busy summer of events.
Yes, it is. Well,
So,
no, it's not the end.
and it's the
Alison,
beginning.
importantly,
Beginning.
it is not the end. But yes, it is the final one in our original series. I put a poll out to see if people want this extended. But
And they
remember
do.
that, this is
Yeah.
not the end. So yes, the final one, we thought that actually really nice time in the year, in people's kind of cycles and things, to just have a bit of a step back and understand where the nation is really at the moment. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today, understanding I guess the big itch of the moment where brands can really kind of help people with. And we've got 5 big insight platforms that you could be kind of activating against at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Exciting. And incidentally, they are now, but I can see many of these things lasting for the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so I did look down the list, and again, we've got a lot of new people. I'm really pleased with this sort of series of events. It seems to have attracted kind of different people, new people,
A wider
and
group of people.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is brilliant,
Yeah.
I think. So for those of you who know us well, and are coming back again, hello and very welcome to you. But anyone who's new, I thought we could introduce ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
You
So
go
I'm
first.
Alison, founder of Caporo. Obviously been doing Insight for many, many years, but have devoted the last 5 years to working with Laura on this sort of subscription service where we are canvassing the mood of the nation on a weekly basis and really understanding every twist and turn and finding, I think, brand opportunities within what is very turbulent times.
Mhm. And I'm Laura, and I've been doing that too. With Alison, kind of since the beginning, kind of 5.5 years ago. It's got to be coming up. Oh no, it is 5.5 years. Looking after often kind of the qualitative side of things, but yes, as you say, understanding every single twist and turn and seeing where that kind of poses business opportunities.
Yeah. If you were to ask us why we do this,
Yeah.
it is, of course, because we love doing insight, but also we do genuinely believe it is a very important thing for businesses to be customer centric, really understand how the nation is feeling. And there's some evidence here from Deloitte's, but we found many other studies that show very similar things, that businesses that do manage to put the customer first get disproportionate return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Some big kind of commercial numbers there in terms of profitability, productivity, also just how it kind of feels to kind of show up to work, what kind of cultures feel like. So there's big prizes on the table.
Yeah. I guess the flip side of that story is there's big prizes, but actually relatively few companies actually achieve this status. So we've got 3 different studies. One is our own study. This is asking really people who work in the businesses, have they nailed customer centricity? Are they genuinely customer obsessed? Or is customer centricity a hallmark of the way they do business? And Laura, the recurring theme is not really.
Yeah, I know, across both kind of our questions, but we've also kind of validated it by looking kind of elsewhere for information. And absolutely, this is hard to do. It's much harder to walk this path than kind of people might first expect.
Yeah. And, I live with somebody who's actually, had a very senior position in a company, and I would sort of endorse that. Sometimes I'm shocked at the conversation around our dinner table at how out of touch people in our household can be. So if it happens in my house and
Mm.
I'm somebody who kind of hopefully understands customers more than most people, I think it is likely endemic across a
Mm.
lot of senior teams within organizations. So that's why we exist, and we really are trying to change that relationship. And Laura, there's a chart here that looks at net optimism over time. This is our tracker, something we did before 2020. And we know that on average, in the sort of 5 years leading up to 2020, the start of the pandemic, then on average, net optimism was around 45%. It has never been near that point over the last 5 years.
I mean, we've had moments where it's much further away than
Of
it
course.
is now
Yeah.
over the last 5 years. It's been kind of turbulent, kind of particularly that kind of middle section. You can see kind of how much we were being thrown around. But even now, we find ourselves a way off from that kind of normal zone.
Yeah, and it's so easy again just to look at that chart and go, oh, it's just a line. Yeah, it's never been near.
Yeah.
But actually, in that delta between our dotted line and the solid line, is people's hopes, dreams, aspirations that are not being
Mm,
fulfilled to the way that they want them to be. And Laura, really, I think what we are looking at in the latter part, second half of this chat today, is really what brands can do to help people feel better
mm.
living in this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How we can kind of bridge that gap, I think, a little bit and actually give people kind of a sense of personal momentum.
Yeah. Now, Laura, you love a story, and what we've discovered over this period is there's been many
Mm.
chapters to this journey, if you like, isn't it, from 2020 through to now? Give us a glimpse of that.
Can I say this chart's painstaking?
I know, but you are very drawn to it because you like to.
Because I've made it. There's a lot of IKEA effect in this chart. It's going to go in a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've just tried to kind of highlight some kind of big moments, really, some kind of huge chapters. Of course, within any given kind of month or quarter within these bars, there are an awful lot of stories going on. It has been kind of treacherous the last few years, but I've tried to kind of zoom out and take us through some kind of bigger stories. And I think the more recent stories have been kind of interesting. I think, gosh, just at the start of 2024, we had this kind of art of dream possible. There was an
There
optimism
was.
to that. There was a sense of kind of, I'm going to kind of make do with what's around me, and you just watch me. I'm going to find a way to win. And we have kind of drifted from that kind of quite a lot. And we're really in this kind of storm meets slump and just kind of
Yeah,
trudging
yeah, yeah.
along in there.
And of course, that, the dream, art of the dream, that was right up to the election,
Mm,
wasn't it? When Labour
mm,
came in, they promised change. And you can see people were optimistic about that. We had more or less 12 months of sort of upward momentum. And I think people do respond to the change rather than the absolute. And so that was a relatively
mm,
buoyant period. But as you say, we've now gone through, in comparison to the last 5 years, a very sort of flat stage, that whole blue bit at the end. And really, during that time, we're seeing two very,
mm.
very opposing forces at play.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans hate dissonance, so this is not good. But on the one side, we've got this sense of storm that things are changing too quickly, feeling kind of very volatile. And then on the other side, we've got this sense of slump that actually nothing's moving. And why am I finding myself almost relive in a kind of previous year, previous month, not finding that I can kind of find my
Mm.
rhythm?
And incidentally, I think if people flick through the news this morning, they'd almost get an absolute sense of
Mm,
both of those
mm,
things, wouldn't they? With Trump overnight saying that, global warming is an absolute hoax. On the right hand side, stories of the government and
mm,
how they're going to try and fill their sort of tax black hole. So both of
mm,
those things very much playing out. And we don't like that. We don't really know how to feel, I think, living in those two very
mm, mm,
different sort of times. Let's just stay on the sort of
mm.
storm. You've used the word unprecedented there. I mean, it's overused, isn't it? But
Find another word.
I know.
It feels like kind of history is being made by the week, I think, and
I
it
know.
just feels very kind of challenging. And so, yeah, I can't think the amount of times over the course of this study, the last 5.5 years, we have chosen to use the word unprecedented, but it still feels kind of in that territory, kind of, scary. It still gets kind of likened to movies and all of those sorts of things. It feels very unsettling.
Yeah, absolutely. And, 2/3 of people saying the world is changing more than it
Mm,
used to. So we don't like that. We're constantly
mm,
vigilant because of that sensation. And there is genuine worry, I think, for the world around us. We look at concerns about political unrest here. It's at an all-time high or, a
mm,
5, 6 year high. There's not, there's a lot of sort of volatile things at play, isn't it? Institutions that we thought we trusted would be there,
mm,
just getting torn apart. And presidents doing very
mm,
strange
mm.
things, war on several continents.
Yeah, it feels very, very scary for people, I think. It feels a time of kind of very, very high tension and a lot to kind of worry about. And it's not just kind of globally either. We're kind of experiencing this sense of storm kind of close to home. And I think one of the challenges with some of these issues is they go from such big things that feel kind of quite overwhelming to quite kind of small things that sort of irritate us on a day-to-day, moment. I have people kind of talking to me about something like kind of immigration and potholes in the same sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sentence. And again, that's another moment of dissonance, isn't it? That
Mm.
like nothing seems like
Nothing
we're on
seems
the
to be
right
quite
page.
right. And yeah, that chart on the left-hand side is sort of worth casting your
Mm,
eye on, isn't it? That's the number of people who think the UK is on the wrong track. Of course, we've sort of got people who sit in the middle, but it's well over half the population there. And it's right back to the sort of heights of dissatisfaction with the
mm,
Conservative government. So yeah, kind of all is not good. And then we reflect alongside that on kind of a sense of slump. And this chart here looks at year on year change in GDP for the UK right back to the 1940s. And we know kind of a healthy level of GDP is around sort of 1 to 2%.
mhm.
That's when the economy is just growing nicely. You get that compound kind of effect of growth on growth. You don't want it to overheat because that leads to difficult things like inflation. But we are going through a period where it's not at that level, basically.
Yeah, and doesn't look like it will be for a very long time. It's like
Yeah,
7 years, so
yeah,
long
yeah.
time.
So it's a long time. It's a long time for a government to kind
Mm,
of be talking about progress and for us not to be able to feel it. Um, Laura, what we're really seeing is a lot of adaptive behaviours
mm,
at play as we try and kind of feel, and I think it is right, feel our way through
mm.
this sort of challenging time. And I guess the number one thing people have done is try and cut back in terms of their spending.
Yeah, try and cut it back. And when we cut that on income group, obviously there are differences there, and there'll be differences in terms of what this means. But the thing that unites us is, for a very long time, this has been what we are focused on doing. It has been relentless. Be
Yeah,
sensible
yeah,
again.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
get to be sensible again. It's that kind of sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it sort of roared up in the cost of
Mm,
living crisis. And as you say, we've not really seen it
mm,
come down very much. And those three different lines there are the three income groups. And it's actually interesting, isn't it, that it's not that much difference
mm.
across the three income groups.
No, how this actually shows up and what sort of stories these groups might be talking about is very, very different. But that sense of whatever it means, needing to be sensible, that relentlessness of it is kind of a shared experience for people on
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah, we're all
high
trying to
level.
cut back. For a
Mm,
rich person, it might be
yeah,
just one holiday
yeah.
a year, not two holidays
Mm,
a year. So the outcome of it is different, but in terms of kind of what we're feeling and trying to
mm,
achieve, then yeah, a real sense of sort of cutting back.
mm,
Now, personally, that has been quite good. On some hands, it's
mm,
made us feel more in control of our finances.
mm,
But of course, that's very bad for the economy to
mm,
have that sort of restraint. We look here in terms of the impact on us psychologically, and what you've pulled out is on the horizontal axis, the number of people who are worried about these things to the extent that they try to hide them from other people, and then the year on year change
mm.
in that as a sensation. And one thing pops out right at the top, doesn't it? The feeling of feeling behind other people.
Yeah, just feeling kind of stuck, feeling like we're being overtaken, like we're missing out. We don't have a kind of sense of momentum, a sense of change, a sense of kind of forward motion as we would like. So I think, yeah, we see this slump all around us and really experience it in, our day to day, the stories we tell and when we reflect.
Yeah, it is very significant that, Laura, because I've had the pleasure of living in some very buoyant economic times, and during those moments, you just get a sense that everyone can be a winner. Like just people are buying houses, they're buying their second house. They dare have children, all this sort
Mm,
of thing. And I think now it's just the opposite happening,
mm.
isn't it? The world is slumping, therefore we feel we're losing. In fact, we're not. We're just not. We're just as slumpy as the world around us.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
But we don't have the shared narrative to be able to talk about it in that way. So we're inclined to just think we are the ones that are kind of falling
Mm,
behind. So it's something we don't like to talk about. Really important chart here that it would be good for you to reflect on, Laura. But it looks at two things, doesn't it? We have a long list of things that people can kind of fear in their lives or feel very positive about. We've tracked the number of things they're fearful of here. And that would be things like from their, mental health, physical health, children, education, state of the economy. That sort of peaked a couple of years ago. We've not really become more fearful, sort of held at that
Mm.
level. But what is interesting is on the right hand side, what's happening to us personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, our personal priorities, we just keep kind of picking up more and more and more of them. These keep kind of becoming more important to us and more in our line of focus. And I think it's interesting when we talk about storm and slump, you could use both of those as a proxy for both of those sensations. And the truth is, those fears aren't rising. They're also not coming down, but they aren't rising because I think we're sort of ignoring it, sick of it. We've reached peak. You can only worry about so much stuff. When it comes to slump, that is the thing that's right in front of our face, that time is passing by and we're not making the sort of progress in life that we really want to. So that's why that personal priorities list is ticking up.
Yeah, so we are wanting progress and we're not feeling it, and we're kind of hiding that as a dialogue
Mm.
from other people. Hidden in that sort of magical sort of combination there is a lot of opportunities for brands, which we will
Yeah.
come on to look at a little bit later. We've got a chart that sort of shows the output of this, doesn't it?
Mhm.
A sense of the world isn't in a great shape, but actually I'm so fed up with the world not being good that I want to make progress myself. We've got this attribute about I must look after myself first before I'm in a position basically to help other
Mm.
people. I mean, phenomenally high numbers of people agree with this.
Mm.
It's in the ascendancy, and it's in the ascendancy just about everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just sense that we need to kind of fill our own cup. We need to focus on ourselves. That focusing on ourselves isn't selfish. It's kind of the only way forward. It's the kind of smart move, I think. And just a sense that like it's just I don't know, just that absolute determination to make that happen.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, it goes right up the income groups as
Mm.
well, doesn't it? It's, yeah, absolute determination now to make a little bit of personal progress because it's sort of said, isn't it, that no one's out there kind of
Mm.
looking after us. And so, at the heart of that, Laura, you have identified 5 ways really that brands can help people over the foreseeable, I think,
Mm.
because this situation isn't changing, isn't it? The storm, which I think has been given the latest twist by the arrival of Trump, is there and it's not going away. And the slump, as we've seen with those GDP figures, is also not going away. So,
Mm.
all of these things are very relevant for brands to help consumers now, but it is a long-term play here. It's not a just this year play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big opportunity at a sort of like more macro level is just to help people get some traction, help them to move forward. And we've got 5 big territories, and this is what we're going to be sharing insights on today. So we've got a bit of a view on each territory, some insights to share, and then some opportunity areas for you to play with.
Yeah. Just before we do that, we thought we would take a step back and just introduce Kokoro a little bit
Mm.
more. And then also, I think importantly, the study that this is based
Mm.
off to really evidence the fact that it's not just me and you making this up. It's sort of very evidence led. So, first of all, Laura, we as a business have done Insight for a very, very long time, and we work in 2 ways. We work on a sort of subscription basis where we are doing a lot of the heavy lifting about understanding the changing kind of narrative of of the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our sort of telescope. This is us constantly scanning the horizon, understanding where the kind of threats and opportunities lie. What is the mood and where's the appetite likely to move next?
Yeah, and then the other side of the business is that we work with individual clients. Once something kind of emerges of interest for them, to look in a very deep dive way at a specific opportunity for them. So one is kind of always on, looking ahead, the telescope. The other is now what do we do about it? How do we kind of make a commercial return on the basis of that? So if that's the 2 sides of the business, what we thought we would do is just introduce the sort of subscription business in terms of how rich it is as a data source.
Yes, and absolutely. That's what you're going to be seeing from us all of today. So, yeah, hugely rich. We speak to 2,000 people every single week quantitatively. So, the database now is enormous. So, 500,000 people, well over that. And we also have a qualitative longitudinal community that run alongside that give us so much kind of richness and deeper understanding. And, of course, importantly, kind of video as well. And we create all of that into various different stories. We're looking at all sorts of different things, from the mood of what's going on to emerging kind of hot issues.
Yeah, and so we are doing a lot of the storytelling ourselves. You know, that sort of archetypal picture of Lego bricks right through
Mm.
to the castle. We would see this element as almost the castle made for people, pulled out absolutely all of the key things that you need to know about. What we've been doing much more recently, of course, is putting all of this information into an application that allows you to be able to mine this and create your own stories, evidence-based stories based on what is now 22,000 different questions.
Yeah, incredible. Amazing. Yes, and we had a demo of that last week that's available on YouTube, so you can have a little look at what you can get. But building kind of reports and things, but also helping you kind of search questions, building stories off of those. So I think at all points, leaning into helping people in businesses talk about storytelling. One of our podcast went live this morning, and Paul at Fremantle was talking a lot about storytelling. Naturally, they make TV programs, but I think this is the a big piece of the jigsaw puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing because one of the parts of this is you can search individual questions, and then once you've got the data from an individual question, you can press a button and have a story told about that. And it is amazing how much more you remember it
Yeah.
once it gets converted into the story than you ever would do just remembering the table of data. So it is a very useful resource, and then you can put different questions together to create individual reports as well. That is available to all clients now, but it's also available on a trial basis 24 hours for anybody who wants to get their hands on it. So that's really part of the subscription. We also, I think, here, Creighton, you're given an example of the sort of reports that we write on the back of this information.
Yeah, absolutely. We have sort of story-led pieces on all sorts of things, from the just the general mood, how people's money's looking, to kind of emerging kind of hot issues. And this was a recent look at the kind of surge in AI, particularly understanding some elements around search and how that's really changing. And this is what our kind of storylines around this look like, which again you can access as part of that 24-hour trial. But this is what I guess we spend a lot of our time doing.
Okay, Laura, so let's get back to your 5 ways that brands can help. So all of these sort of ladder up to the overall sense of help me make traction, progress. What you've done is sort of 5 nuances around progress,
Yes.
all of which I think are important.
So the first is to absolutely protect my focus. I think this is a real desire to hone in, make sure there's something that we're aiming for, and don't let anything knock us off our course. I think that is the big desire here.
Yeah, and I think we've put out a chart here, isn't it? I followed the news, and we can see that we are very vigilant at the moment in terms of following the news. It's higher than it was when the pandemic came along, and we were very scared about the world. And that is sort of keeping one eye, isn't it, for what might blow me off course. If we were to block a plot on side of that, like talking about the news, that actually has gone down over recent times. And in part, we sort of look at this, don't we? That people kind of want to make sure they're not going to be blindsided, because we've felt that several times over the last few years, but we don't want to get dragged by it, because the truth is that the news is not very happy.
No, absolutely. I mean, when we look at barriers to happiness, it's that sense that the world just kind of keeps getting in, it keeps kind of getting to us. We have wanted to focus on ourselves for a very long time. We have had a desire to kind of block things out and try and kind of carve progress. But actually, when we look at these barriers to progress, there's everything else that kind of seems to keep kind of getting in and dragging us down, a sense that we kind of can't get away from these things.
Yeah, and everyone therefore disagreeing
Yeah,
about it. And
everyone disagreeing other people's problems, like
yeah,
just
yeah,
all
just
of
don't
this stuff that we just think I just don't need
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the truth is, we're kind of keeping one eye on the news. We're not really talking about it because that leads to a sense of unhappiness. I think more broadly, you pull out another sort of recent stat here, isn't this? Is feeling towards the tube strikes. There was a time when people were quite sympathetic towards strikers, but now it's like, oh, really?
Do you want a 32-hour week? That's the kind of thing we're kind of hearing on our qualitative interviews, and you'll see it kind of in our videos and things. Those of you who subscribe, this kind of sense of, yeah, everyone's hurting actually. This is difficult for everyone. What about me? And they'll very quickly move to not talking about the strikers, but talking about their issues at work. And I really think this comes down to the fact that we need to absolutely focus on ourselves. We want to block out these things. We need some sort of like personal healing. And of course, we're getting a lot of this by just trying to find ways to hide away a little bit.
Yeah, and staying at home has become kind of our go-to, hasn't it? We've seen this only increase over the last 5 years. You pulled out the last couple of years there, and each year it sort of nudges up a few more percentage points. We feel safe at home. We feel safe at home. We get less disagreement with people that we live with. Um, and also there is a money safeness about being at home as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think we just feel that bit more kind of in control. There's a lots of things that we can do that we feel like we kind of squeeze quite a lot of value out of. We're safe almost from ourselves, as well as being kind of safe from others in the news, in the sense of kind of some of these things that are getting in our way.
Yeah. So this whole theme really is about helping me keep sort of the bad world at arm's length and helping me focus on my world, staying centered on the things that are important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this needs to be a message of actually saying you first is really powerful. You know, it's not selfish. It's really is strength. I think really helping people kind of protect themselves a little bit, protecting their bandwidth, kind of keeping things short, low effort, really simple, really clear, just not being another kind of challenge, I guess. Permission to kind of opt out. Sometimes that say no thing, I think, does go slightly far and trips us up. And the extreme version of that would be a bit of kind of alienation. But at the moment, I do think that is a message that people want to hear. The fact that kind of calm, quiet feels kind of quite premium, quite kind of luxury. I think at the moment there's lots to kind of play with in that space, but this is about, yeah, just be you, focus on you, stay very centered.
Yeah, and I guess the sort of subline to all of that is don't make me feel guilty about putting me at the heart
Yeah,
of it.
absolutely. I think that's where it's maintenance, not indulgence. Actually, some of these things can feel, oh, if only I had, the time, or those sorts of things. Actually, like at this moment in time, people probably really need that. Yeah. Lots of ways, I think that brands could really kind of help here. A lot of them kind of touch on kind of doing it for you, making ways to kind of cut out the noise in the sense of give me kind of calm, give me something kind of reliable. Anything I think that speaks to it being vital, this having kind of a real urgency to it. Don't put it kind of to the bottom of the list. That actually these moments for yourself are a kind of superpower, not a luxury. Um, Instantly, I'll put this into your AI,
My AI.
your AI tool on kind of focus yourself. And it is incredible just how quickly it will create kind of hooks, frictions, kind of hot buttons to start playing with in any kind of
I'm
territory.
trying to look at actually the term that you
Well,
put in.
I put focus on yourself then.
All right.
Because you're supposed to keep it to,
Yeah.
don't ask a long question.
Yeah.
It doesn't like that. You're supposed to keep it to something kind of quite tight. And I thought, well, that was tight enough. But these were good, I thought.
Yeah. Very good.
So that's the first one.
Yeah.
Protect
So,
my focus.
yeah. Take away the world and let me focus on my world. Yeah. Feel grounded.
Feel grounded.
Step one, I think.
So the next one, turn thrift to triumph. That sense of cutting back that we showed earlier and it just being kind of constant. This is almost a little bit of an antidote to that, I think. Put a little bit more power, satisfaction back in.
Yeah, so it just doesn't feel grim to be doing.
You feel in control, not just like
Feel powerful.
puppeted.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess this is the framing of it, isn't it? Worried about my finances. Again, from 2021, we saw that increase very significantly as we went into the cost of living crisis. It has come down a little bit, but we've really seen no progress for over a year now in terms of that coming down. So it remains around 10 percentage points higher than it started. And it's come down not to what it was, but there's been a lot of hard work that's been involved in getting it to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. We've managed to actually create some flex. We've done well here. And I think people have almost kind of proved a little bit to themselves that actually they have taken on kind of new tactics, new strategies. There have been moments where they've played it cleverly. They've maybe done things, said no to things that kind of felt very hard, almost impossible at one point, and actually now is kind of within their gift. And I think although it's not eased, that it's not continued to ease, that change of that kind of 10 percentage point has made people feel that little bit more in control, that little bit lighter.
Yeah, and this is quite a shift over the last year because prior to that, there was a temptation just to ignore our worries, sort of bury our head. And I think it went on too long for
Mm.
us to be able to do that. And so we've gone through sort of 12, 18 months of people increasingly taking action. And you can see the output of it here, that
Mm.
they've just created themselves a little bit more flex. And of course, that is a quite a powerful sense.
Mm.
And we see it played out here in terms of being pleased about spending relatively little.
Mm. There's satisfaction and pride in this,
Yeah.
isn't this? This is a marker of success, in a way. So I think it's important to kind of bear that in mind, that actually these are little wins, I think.
They are personal wins.
Mm.
Of course, the very big caveat is it's very difficult for the government because this is why we get in sort of that very flat economy. But personally, we feel strong by not spending
Mm.
too much money.
So I think this is a watch out, isn't it? That we can't afford to slip. I mean, you always say that one of the big markers of progress is that you're solving different problems. If you keep coming back round trying to solve the same problem,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
probably doing something wrong. And I think that, I mean, people aren't doing anything wrong, but this will have that sensation, won't it? Oh, energy bills again, here we go. And I think that is that sensation of, oh, I thought we'd done
I
this.
thought we'd done it. I
Mm.
thought we'd be able to do more this year, but actually we can't. It's just the same thing, which incidentally I think is why you feel like you're not making progress.
Mm.
And then you kind of look around, everyone else's life looks rosier, and then that's when you don't want to share the fact that you don't feel that you're making very much
Mm.
progress. Yeah, so it's relentless. We've done it, we feel pleased about it. But as you say, kind of our eyes are open to the fact that we've got to continue doing this.
Yeah, we've got to
Mm.
continue to sort of gear ourselves up, I think, which we know is difficult. It is relentless. It is sort of sustained, consistent working at something. That is tough.
And so the opportunity for brands really is, you're giving an
I was going to
example
give a
there.
little
Yeah,
flash that
yeah, yeah.
actually this is something we cover. We have a State of the Nation report. It goes out every single month, and it speaks to the mood. And this is exactly the sort of opportunity space and kind of mood that we would be kind of highlighting in that first chapter, where we start to kind of understand what you could start spinning with. So this was the September one, and it was kind of the joy of just enough. And I guess what this is about kind of injecting some positivity and some power into that situation. I think there are a lot of other ways in which brands can be doing this. And I think sort of framing that thoughtfulness, that consideration on spend as quite aspirational, making us feel proud of things, celebrating entry price points or things that are quite kind of packed in value, giving us a real sense of kind of confidence around our money. And then I think giving us some help in terms of when we spend, like, does it earn its place? Because if it does, really enjoy spending that. Don't feel guilty about everything. I think there's a lot of different territories to play with in this
Yes, the
space.
proudly in control
Mm.
is a sense of not burying your head, really,
Mm.
isn't it? It is looking up, making sensible decisions,
Yeah.
feeling in control, and then celebrating
Mm.
it. Lots of ways that brands can help.
Yeah, loads of ways. And I think this is really about giving some zing, giving some pride, some kind of passion to some of these moments. I literally walked past Co the other morning, and I thought that actually this 10 they've got iconic plates for 10
Yeah, yeah.
pounds. That it's kind of made a day out of that sort of thing. It's not the thing that you just have to do with your partner or anything if you're just going to do. It's almost a reason to kind of get together with people. It feels there's something in it that feels triumphant. This isn't just a sort of stingy day. This is a kind of reason to kind of get together. So I think even sectors that play way outside of what is completely essential can completely play in this space, as well as kind of very essential categories like kind of grocery finance, all of those sorts of things.
Brilliant. So overall, it's about more of the same, needing to stay in control of
Mm.
your money, but making people feel strong and bold about that
Mm.
rather than kind of small and light. I don't know, like the world's getting at you.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Positive choice around it. Okay, the next one's interesting, isn't it? We've said people are hiding the fact that they're not making progress. It is hard to make progress in a world that's not helping itself kind of move forward. There's not a natural momentum to it. So this is the tactic of brands really helping you, despite all of the odds being against you, actually eking some way forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's evidence on the left-hand side that that's exactly what people want, isn't it?
Mm.
They want to keep themselves busy, use their time productively. It's one of those scales where you get up the opposite end of it is just relax, enjoy life. Well, no, we don't want to sleepwalk through it. We
Mm.
want something to show for ourselves. And Laura, a 5-year high is that?
Yeah, it's higher than that sort of restless pre-roadmap period. So after Christmas, when schools were shut for, an unknownly long time, we were kind of back in that at the start 2021. There was like a real itchiness, a sense of restlessness before that roadmap was out. We're busier and more productive than we were now when we needed kind of peak distraction and we're at kind of peak frustration. And I think this is all about having kind of things we can really point to, things we can really feel within ourselves, moments where we can really gain momentum. That could be something at home, it could be about learning, it could be about fitness, it could be about our careers, moving on a step. But there's got to be a sense that I am different to how I was, last month, last season, that sensation.
Yeah, and I guess it goes without saying that this progress can't be bought at high cost because people don't
Mm.
have lots of spare cash to be able to put towards it. And so we've seen a lot of focus over the last 12 months on that one about just being healthier. Here you've got an example of eating healthier, but when we look at bad habits, they've really come down around health. We've seen more people kind of get active, wear things like smart watches, get moving, and by way of exercise. So cost neutral ways of finding progress is really what people are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even some, I think, in terms of they can maybe see some real sort of upsides to it. It might help them, seeing people kind of eat more healthily, think more about what they're eating, not waste so much food. There are
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
things in here that have got kind of pounds left on the table, kind of thing. But yes, absolutely, this is about kind of really making progress, making ourselves kind of feel better, have things to point to without destroying that
Yeah.
previous goal of saving.
I mean, it is also worth pointing out that often we see kind of a bit of a say-do gap on some of these
Mm,
things, and health could be one of those things, but this year hasn't been.
yeah.
But the next one along, that make more time for family and friends, there has been a fair amount of say-do gap there, isn't it?
Mm,
It's like we constantly want to do it, but it does result in a loss of control sometimes when we
mhm,
meet up with family and friends. And so helping people come together in the coat way might be a good example
mm,
of that, of being able to get together without ceding all control of budget.
mm. Yeah, absolutely.
Laura, oh, sorry, personal development has become an important
Mm.
thing as well. This is all part of that. Use my time productively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this also could be get increasing your income,
Yes, so
potentially
there's a
kind of
win-win. Yeah.
career. There is a win-win, but I think this is absolutely a sense of actually this is something that most people are doing, need to do in some way, and so actually kind of moving forward on this could tick sort of so many of those boxes of kind of feeling different to how we did last year, having things to point to that we're like, I was involved in that, or I changed that, or whatever it is for people. I think it's interesting that we're kind of so focused on our own kind of contribution and how we feel about what we're learning.
Yeah, is this an element of zig when others are zagging kind of
Mm,
thing? We've seen it really play out amongst younger, more affluent people, really wanting to be on the front end of things like artificial intelligence, really tuning into all of those sort of techie podcasts,
mm,
self-development podcasts. So, and again, I think it is just a really good acknowledgement, isn't it, that I can't just get ahead by being moving along with the
mhm,
average. I've actually got to beat the system to some extent. So, yeah, personal development. Laurie, I think some really interesting
mm,
data on this chart here. And this is the different priorities people have in life when they set themselves goals or not.
Mhm.
And I think this is an area that brands could really help people to kind of set aspirational goals, something to march towards. Otherwise, you tend to focus on the outputs, not the inputs. Talk
Yeah.
to that.
I think that this is so interesting. I think that the the movement of these bars just tells such a kind of huge story that if you have goals, you are way more likely to be focused on some of the things that might, for example, really enhance your mental well-being, whether that's relationships, community, just having kind of nice hobbies, your work-life balance, all of those sorts of things are on that chart. That's where we're focused. I think people who don't have life goals are sort of just focused on that end result. I just want to feel better. I just want to feel better, that kind of sensation. And I think that there's so much to unpick there that brands could really help with. Essentially, if you have goals, you are more likely to kind of focus on the positive things that are going to deliver you there at the end. And I think that brands could really help unlock that. As you say, help people kind of set some goals and help them unlock some of the things they actually need to do to get there.
Yeah, because that's the second level to
Mm,
it, isn't it? You know, it's easy to think of what I want work-life balance, but what is that? And
mm.
how do you yeah, how do you make it happen? And there's a big opportunity there. So yeah, help people see a future, and then I guess on a day-to-day basis, sacrifice some things in order to achieve some of that as well. And then you feel good because you can tick something off your list.
Mhm.
Um, Laura, you point to another of our outputs here.
Yeah, this was our monthly report for September, so it came right at the beginning of the month. And this was a big sort of territory we were talking about there, that this is a huge time for this sort of sensation. People want progress generally. It's been a tough time generally. People have been slumping generally, but particularly this autumn time. This sensation just really, really elevates.
Yeah. And of course, we see it play out again early in the year as people want progress at the beginning of the year. So there's two kind of key points. So absolutely. Laura, so just finish off this section for us. This really, in a nutshell, is about the world hasn't got a lot of natural momentum. We want to find our own bit.
Yeah, and I think in some of this there is a little bit of giving us that sense of kind of hunger and excitement for some of these sorts of things, making them not feel sort of dull or boring or hard, but actually like really enjoying them, the sort of joy of sweat or effort. I mean, one of those things that people who have goals focus on is relationships. And I was thinking actually how much we've made effort in those sorts of things feel like dorky. Don't be the person who keeps asking people, don't water it. See who texts you first. Say no. The joy of cancelled plans. All of those sorts of things. Well, actually, I think the messages here are the complete opposite. They're no, like get on, do like ignore what everyone else is doing. Like that's a good move for you. I think focusing on the actual journey of that becoming, not so much the end result, like to
Mm.
reward the in between. And I think quite a message of sort of quietly overtaking things around sort of streaks and consistency, squirreling away benefits. You're focused on the kind of later win, not so much the win
Yeah.
today.
I was thinking, Laura, you said a phrase to me last week about, it's tough out there, we're tougher.
Mm,
That's at the heart of this, I think, isn't it? It's an acknowledgement that it is difficult, but I'm going to find it within
mm.
me to be able to actually make some progress within it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so brands can help us.
Yeah, I think this is about helping us win quietly, but feel really proud and excited about winning kind of quite quietly. This is about sort of lower entry points, maybe, just so we start getting going, focusing on the consistency of showing up, not actually are we better than so and so or better than we were last year, just kind of getting us moving, really focusing on little gains, giving us real sort of purpose. So I was thinking around that finance angle, when you really name a pot and it's got an absolute kind of goal in terms of savings, that those sorts of things. I think there's lots in the way of leisure that could talk to this, little challenges about kind of reading a book a month, or all of those sorts of things that maybe are moments, ways to have it's tough, but I'm going to find a way to have it differently or do something differently. I think.
Okay, very good. So I do think the elevated version of that is it's tough, I'm tougher,
Mm.
and I can make some progress. This is aligned to a world still where it's difficult and there is this storm and slump going on. But I think for me, this territory you're going to talk about now is more about just finding sort of contentment within a difficult world
Yes, yeah, exactly. And this is less about kind of getting busy and stretching
and
for it and
fighting
more,
against it.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is way more about sort of stopping, smelling, noticing, and finding kind of small ways to add a little bit of sort of happy zing.
Yeah, and I guess it is in a world where we so easily say it's all broken, actually recognizing that some things aren't broken
Mm,
and I can still enjoy
mm,
those moments. And this is the first chart, isn't it? Where do we find happiness? And these are sort of just eternal nice things that
mm.
Trump can't take away from us.
Yeah, and I call them kind of soft joys because in any one moment, this isn't necessarily a groundbreaking story, something you would take a photo of, remember forever, recount at the pub kind of 3 months later. But these are important moments in our world. They kind of keep us focused on something positive. They keep us kind of feeling comfortable, grounded, kind of happy. And I think we are eking more out of those. So I think a real sort of like acknowledgement of sort of happiness in little corners, all those soft joys over kind of big thrills is important.
I think it's interesting you've pulled a pet out there because I think a pet is
Yeah.
all about that, isn't it? It really doesn't care what's going on in the
Mm,
world. It is absolutely about sort of soft
mm,
joy, as you say. Another thing that is all about soft joy is nature.
mm.
Um,
I mean, it's right in front of us. It's completely around us. And actually, incidentally, this is supposed to be the most beautiful autumn that we've had in years because we had such a hot summer. It's something to do with sugar and leaves and trees and things. But this autumn is going to be particularly beautiful, as stated by the Forestry Commission. But this is all around us. I think this is a perfect
mm.
moment for us to have a brilliant autumn, isn't it? I think it's that thing of just sort of beauty and joy that is kind of right in front of us, that it does represent visual progress. Actually, we are really interested in the sort of healing power of it, some of the energy that we can take from nature. So I think any messages that help us just notice what is right in front of our face could really resonate.
I think you're right because these are often hidden in plain sight, aren't they? You know, you could so easily not notice those things of autumn,
Mm,
but if someone has told you there are more berries,
mm.
there is definitely going to be red berries
Oh
at
my goodness,
Christmas and all
what a
this sort of
timing
thing,
effect. Yeah.
then you absolutely see it.
Mm,
And you know, and I think, yeah, so I think just being
mm,
reminded and shown this
mm.
and encouraged to sort of settle into it.
Yeah, that's so true, actually. It's going to be a bit of a vision of like abundance, which is something that we really want to
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Um,
Well, my dad has told me that the berries are already on the holly tree,
well,
so there you go. Yeah. But he is very, very good at spotting every inch of nature, which, you know, sadly does often pass me by. So I think, yeah, being shown this,
mm,
encouraged to find this sense of presence, I think.
mm.
You've pulled out interest in moving house, and we can see on here that people are sort of tuning out. They're recognizing that actually house moves are too difficult. They will lose too much money
Mm.
in just the cost of what the stamp and
Yeah.
the change and all the rest of it. So just happy to stay put and enjoy what they've got.
Yeah, and I think that there used to be a show, didn't there, kind of love it or list it, and I think this is the moment to just like love
Love it.
it.
Yeah.
Like, where do we find ourselves? What is in front of us, and what good can we find there, or kind of squeeze more from?
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a bit of loss aversion as well, isn't there? Because we do put play twice the stone on the thing that we've got, and we know in this uncertain times that we can find
Mm,
joy within our current house. So I think there would be a real draw to sort of stay in put.
mm.
So, Laura, this is about lifting the ordinary, seeing what we can so easily miss or forget to enjoy.
And really savouring it, I think. Little everyday joys, sort of tiny pleasures. I think just noticing, just that sense of kind of stopping for a moment and kind of seeing what is really in front of us. I think actually some of those really regular routines, like regular and routine doesn't need to be mean dull or to-do lists. Actually, you can create that into, a bit of a moment of not nice kind of rituals rather than routines. Actually, that familiar and had it however many times before can be really joyful and really kind of exciting. It doesn't have to feel like, oh. Yeah, I think loving kind of what we
Mm.
have, either kind of falling in love with things we already have, or sort of like passing them on quite kind of proudly, I think is quite a big message for now as well.
Yeah, as you were talking there, Laura, it made me realise and think again about that notion we've spoken about so many times about humans just have sort of an autocorrect
Mm,
mechanism. And again, I think this is the ultimate autocorrect, isn't it? In a world where we can't just have more, 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 we have to learn in another way to put more value on something we can have, non-monetary things. And so many of what you're talking about is not money things here. It's
mm.
enjoying the gift of kind of life, isn't it, in the world around us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of loving what we have. I think the ultimate move is I didn't want to move anyway. I love it
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the sort of like powerful
Yeah.
stance to take, I think. And so I think ways to make the familiar feel rewarding is really important. This is about, I guess, adding a lot of kind of, joy, a little bit more comfort, little kind of ways to elevate things that are a bit kind of routine and maybe are a bit kind of over repeated, over kind of done. Any ways that we can squeeze the most out of things we've already got. I think home is a huge area there. There's probably kind of a big role for clothing in there as well. I think anything that feels kind of simple that feels maybe a little bit kind of pared back. I was thinking about like even like tribute acts and more up and
Mm.
coming kind of comedians and things like that. So you're kind of seeing an element of, slightly stripped back but kind of really rewarding, and anything that we get to do that kind of keeps us calm, really savouring that routine, whether that's beauty routines, kind of just making a cup of tea, those sorts of things. I think finding the kind of good, finding the win.
Very good. So we move into the final
We
territory.
do.
And this you've called make one-offs matter. And I think this is interesting, isn't it? This is in a world where we can't have lots and lots and
Mm,
lots. Then choose your battlegrounds and
mm,
really enjoy those and
mhm,
invest in those. And so you've got a chart here, haven't you, about the number of people who've been on holiday
mhm,
in the last week. It's been really down over the whole of this summer. So this isn't to say that people didn't get a holiday, but what we think really happened is some people didn't get a holiday. They slightly stretched it, 14 months rather than
mm,
12 months between them. Some people just cut out a sort of a slight secondary holiday. But the net impact is just fewer
mm,
very big adventure moments in
mhm.
people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in that context, it's interesting to see that we got a lot of happiness from,
More
more happiness
happiness.
from the times when we did do it.
Yeah, and this is sort of a truth, isn't it?
Mm,
You know, we all know the sensation when you've been on a diet and you have your first whatever.
mm,
It's very nice, the end of dry January. That wine tastes
mm,
better than it ever did before.
mm.
And this is the holiday that's particularly special, isn't it? Because you had to work harder to save for it. You just squeeze more happiness out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of kind of levers that play there, aren't there? There's more anticipation, as you said, that fresh appreciation because maybe it's been kind of more distance in between each one. But I think it kind of forces us to maybe think differently about them. We go in there slightly more kind of intentional, slightly more planned, slightly more really got to kind of squeeze the most out of this. I don't want to just kind of walk in. I don't want to just sleepwalk in. And I think it's interesting because we've been looking at Christmas this week, haven't we? Our
Yeah.
Christmas report, it was out Monday, where we take a look at how people are kind of feeling heading into Christmas. And I think there's a huge amount of opportunity for brands this Christmas because it absolutely falls into a make it count territory.
Yeah, and we're not just seeing it about Christmas, which we see here, we are
Mm.
seeing it about every calendar event. They just
Yeah.
mean a little bit more because, of course, it is very easy to just cancel all of the other events in your life. And that's exactly what we're talking about, that say do gap or meeting up with friends and family. But you can't not,
Yeah.
celebrate the big moments, the birthday, Halloween, and here, Christmas. And you can just see the different psyche towards it. The height of the cost of living crisis, we were really worried, money was out of control. Now we're in a situation where money is much more in control and a lot of mitigating actions still being taken, but we can sit back and enjoy it. And I think it is a moment of actually hitting on both of your last two
Mm.
strands, isn't it? It's like really make it count because you only get one Christmas a year, but also just really enjoy the contentment of
Mm.
family and friends being together because that's the real joy of Christmas.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think sort of cards to play here, or sort of plot lines, would be all around that actually doing it once, if you do it really well, is enough. And scarcity can really build a sense of magic. I think ways to help people really soak it all in, make sure they are amplifying it and getting as much out of it as possible. I also wondered about this territory when I was writing this. I came back to the word of like unrepeatable, unmistakable, that the fact that it does only happen once, and that makes it very special and very exciting. And so I think that's possibly a kind of territory to kind of play with a little bit. Really kind of unique experiences that even if you tried, you wouldn't be able to kind of make all of that happen again.
Hmm.
I think could be interesting.
No, I think there is something in that because I've noticed that like on the going back to that travel thing, like there seems to be like a real rejection of going to the place that's been on TikTok and then there's got loads of other people at it, because I
Mm.
think it really undermines this sense of kind of uniqueness. Yours, you found it, it's really special.
Yeah, yes, completely.
Yeah.
And ages ago, when we were talking about predictions, you were talking about impressionists, and you really thought that
Yeah, okay.
and that sort of entertainment, um, that is
Mhm.
unrepeatable. You had to be there, you had to
To see
see
it in
this
the
moment
moment.
in
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
that sensation. So I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that this
So don't
this,
just make it Christmas 2025.
yeah,
Which
absolutely.
all of the hallmarks, but a thing within it that really marks it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think this is about remarkability. This is something that feels stand out, as you say, unique. It's not everybody's. It's mine. It's been made to be mine. I think any moments that heighten anticipation, that help us kind of stretch and soak some of the experience out of a moment where we do splurge a bit, is really important. I think there's lots of opportunities from little tiny ways to kind of elevate how we might be kind of serving food, all the way through to the sort of trip we might plan, and how you might really tease kind of anticipation.
Yeah. One thing that's occurred to me as we were talking, Laura,
Mm,
is I mean, all of this at the heart is the progress, isn't it? That's your
mm,
final kind of point. Again, we want traction, we want
mm,
progress. We have done a really lovely bit of analysis, haven't we? In the year that you are like a 0 or 5 in your birthday, you
mm.
want to achieve more. Well, we are also living in a year of 2025, aren't we? That maybe that's another reason that we kind of really want this sense of moving forward as
It's all
well.
our predictions at the
I
same
know, I
year.
know. I forget why.
Digit preference, yeah,
Absolutely,
absolutely,
yeah,
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 completely. We've got a 5 in this year.
yeah.
It's got to be good.
So yeah, between now and the end of the year, we want to do something.
Mm,
Yes, I think you're right.
yeah, completely.
So Laura, where to from here then? We've done a very intensive 6 weeks. The first 3 weeks were training sort of sessions, weren't we? Where we looked at various kind of personal development areas.
Going to
We've
be
walked.
extended. That's what's going to happen. So, we've had a brilliant response from people. I think it's been interesting to hear what people have said. An absolute summary would be that they've liked a mix of the some of the training and some of these sorts of sessions. So we are going to continue with them. It is not going to be quite so intense. So we had a sort of very intense
Okay,
summer
6 weeks,
series,
yeah.
where we had sort of 8 weeks, and within that, there were six big things. We're going to spread them out a little bit more, but we are going to extend it. I'm going to auto enroll anyone who's already signed up, so you don't have to go through kind of making forms and things like that. So these will pop into your diaries late this week, early next week, and I'll share the kind of calendar of what we have coming up. But some really interesting things we are going to do. I'm interested in this challenge as well. A sort of session on how you talk in pounds, not percentages.
Ah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one of my hobby horses.
Pete and Sarah are going to talk a lot about moderation, facilitation, how you can really
Yeah,
kind of own a room, own a kind of Zoom call.
yeah.
And we are going to have more predictions. We've been challenged a little bit to have a bit more interaction, to have some guests. So we are going to think about all of that and put together a really nice program.
Very good. Yeah, so auto enroll to that.
Mm,
And Laura, we have touched on our AI kind of
yeah.
platform during this as well. So any clients, of course, can get their hands on it.
Mhm,
People who are not clients and would like 24 hours
mhm.
access to it, then that's a possibility as well. And that will go out as a link
Yes,
along with this.
it will.
Very good. Right. Well, I mean, I have to say, I've really enjoyed doing these. I particularly always like pulling together training material because I think we have got a very hard job to do. And it's very good discipline, I think, every now and again to be forced to kind of really unpick what we do. And
Mm,
actually, in unpicking it, I think you can see hidden in plain sight again just how difficult it is.
mm.
Um, and why it's so underrated, I think, as a profession.
Yeah, I think it's made me more excited about what we do, as well, and it sort of helped you up your game, a little bit.
Yeah,
You almost think, oh, I need to walk through my own steps
yeah,
and
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure I don't leave any unturned. So yeah, I think it's been a great exercise.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay,
Right. Thank you.
brilliant. We'll see you guys soon.